Welcome back to Redzone and the UK. This is Fan Appreciation Week, and today we are definitely in the UK. We got our UK guys that's joining on the other side. We are all the way over on the other side of the pond. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about commanders over the pond. Like, let's see if their fan experience is just as worse as ours was for the last 30 years. And we're gonna talk about Ron's tenure, what went wrong, what could have went better. And Josh Harris. This is a new fan experience for us. Some of us don't know how to act, which way to go. We just feel like something is about to happen because we got that old thing still twinkling around in the back of our ears. But right after this, we're gonna chop it up.
Wake up. Wake up. Get up. Get up. Wake up. Wake up. Get up. Get up.
Welcome. Well, at least it's not 5:30 in the morning over here in the States. It is 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern here. It's 10 o'clock over there. So maybe we be a little lively, a little more lively for me. What you say, Scouts?
Yeah, about time as well, man. I mean, always seems to hear you like, oh, yeah. Like, literally just got up.
Christian, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Juice. It's good to see you a little later in the day. So
yeah. Scouts are like, come on, Christian, join the show. So I'm sure you move some stuff around to make Scouts happy, right, Christian?
I always like to make Andy happy, yeah. I got back from my physio appointment.
That's the right answer.
Welcome to the show, Scott Hartley. How are you doing today, buddy?
I'm good, thank you. Absolutely great. Yeah, love it. We've just finished our pod, and I'm great to be chopping up with you guys and familiar faces, which is great.
Yeah, Tony, this is my first time meeting you. Glad you can join the show. How are you today?
Good, thanks, Juice. Yeah, not too bad. I'm actually in Ireland, so I'm not in the UK anymore. I'm just far enough away from these boys to keep me safe. So pretty happy with that.
All right, man. So I know Christian, I know Scott's story about how they became Redskin fans from way back when, all the way up to now. But let's start with you, Tony. How did it happen? How did you end up here?
I'll try and keep it brief. Back when they started showing the NFL in the UK in 1982, family friend came back from a holiday in the US with a couple of the old school pennants, a bit like the ones you've got behind you there. One was a Redskins one was a Cowboys one. I got the Redskins one. I was the older brother. I chose the Redskins one. My brother chose the Cowboys one. So we've been enemies ever since. So from then on through the 80s, I used to listen to the American Armed Forces radio network on a Sunday night with the terrible signal. We used to get taxi drivers and opera singers and everything else. In the days before, we used to get every game live. So, but on the positive side, I do remember 2 of our 3 Super Bowl wins as if it were yesterday. So I've seen the good days as well as the bad, but it does seem a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. There's no doubt about it. What about you, Scott?
So my story is basically picked up the game from being in the military in the UK. I worked quite closely with US colleagues on a camp together. They would have big 4th of July parties and then big NFL parties for Super Bowl. And I just thought, what's this game all about? Never really nailed my colours to the mast until 2011. And I got some highlights of a Giants game where we were getting absolutely trashed. Then in the 4th quarter, we came back and won the game. It was at MetLife. And I thought, you know what? I like the color scheme. I like this team. I'm going to try and adopt this team. And then the following year, RG3 came, watched the draft. And then kind of that run against the Vikings down the sideline, it was born. And that was where the colors were pinned to the mast. And then ever since then, I've been a bit of a diehard Redskins, Washington football, Commanders, whatever you want to call ourselves today. So it's good from there.
Would y'all change if you had an opportunity to go back knowing what you know now, would you make a different decision?
No, I don't think so. I've got friends who are big Green Bay fans. I've got another friend who's a massive Chicago Bears fan. They try to influence me for a little bit, but nah. I like pain juice. My football team are terrible. My rugby team are terrible. So my football team's terrible. So I'm happy with that. It's all good.
What about you, Scouts? Would you change would you go back and change?
Oh no.
The Scout, man, look, Scout's pretty hard on the team, man. Like, man, Christian gotta bring the positivity to the show on Sunday mornings.
I call it realist, man. I call it realism. That's what I call it.
You're just a pessimistic shite, Scouts. That's what you are.
I am, to be fair. Yeah, man. I mean, no, there's no way I'd change. I mean, there's the thing you see with true kind of UK kind of fans of any sport, never mind NFL, but any sport, once they've got their team, 9.9 out of 10, they just don't change teams, no matter how bad they are. Like, you ride and die with them, and that's just how it works. So, when you obviously, like, we've picked our teams, and we ride or die to the end as well. It's just how we're ingrained in us throughout our lives, our families' lives, our parents, and all the rest of it. So yeah, man. So never change it.
Yeah, I guess that goes for all of you, right? It's just. This is just what it is. And I think even over here in the States, 35 and under, you just never know what you're going to get. But, 36 and over, like, we been here too long. We in it. Like, we not going nowhere. But let's start with Tony. The Ron Rivera tenure. And we just going to go around the room, just jump in. Outside of the Trent Williams thing, like when he first came, because we've been asking this question all week, and it's always Trent Williams. But other than Trent Williams, what are some of the biggest mistakes Ron made while he was here?
Jeez, how long we on for tonight? I think ultimately the thing that's let him down over the 4 seasons is he never found a quarterback. You can talk about any number of different things, but ultimately, teams rise and fall if and when they find top 10 quarterback, and through a number of different players and possibilities, then we never got there. There was, tried many different routes, from the untested Howell through to, through to some of the other guys that we went through there. None of them worked. Went through Fitzpatrick, put a lot of stock, and put it almost to a certain extent his reputation when he brought in Carson Wentz. He was very bullish about Carson Wentz, but that went wrong. So I'd say that's probably the highlight one anyway. Quarterback's obviously been an issue for the team for 35 years, since Mark Rippon disappeared, basically. But and it's one that'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll come to the future at some point soon, but it's something that's got to get right.
Hope so. Where you at, Scott? Yeah, I agree. I think, looking at it realistically, you could count out quite a few. That I'm the effing guy in the press conference. I'm the guy who looked at the analytics. I'm the guy who picked Carson Wentz. The Cleveland game, where he went back to Carson Wentz after the finger injury. The writing was kind of on the walls then. We all sat in the close season and talked and said, do you know what? It's a bit of a lame duck year, this, for Coach Ron. And honestly, there's a lot that could be said there, but at the same time, you've got to give him his props as well, because he's gone through a lot of stuff, and I don't think that a young head coach who could have came in here could have done what he'd done. Obviously, his personal battles as well. I'm not here to big up Ron at all. I think the timing is right, and it was the right time for Ron to go. What I was impressed with is how it was handled by the ownership group. I thought that the media statement, the Ron having his own statement, was great. I also thought that, looking at Josh Harris from the press conference, he spoke really well about Ron. And Ron is a man. He's a man manager. He's a man manager of talent, not of players. He's a player's coach. But there's a lot that he did go wrong and could have gone wrong and went wrong. Fundamentally not finding a linebacker, being on the 85 Bears, and also having a defensive coordinator who was a linebacker in the NFL is that's malpractice for me. And then obviously not looking at the offensive line as well. But I think Tony's point is spot on. Not finding the quarterback was what did us in the end, I think.
Christian Scouts, have y'all read? I'm sure Christian read it for sure, but have y'all read that Ben Standig report yet?
Which one? The
one about Ron and his tenure here.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Well, I'm banned from Ben Standig, so.
Okay, so we're definitely going to have. Hold on. We definitely need to have that conversation. Can we have this on air, or does it have to be off air, Scouts?
Oh yeah, man.
Just get an athletic subscription, Scouts, and stop being cheap.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. To be fair, he's not worth the money anyway.
It is. Oh, it is. Is that the article where he talks about him?
But
is that the article where he talks about him being more worried about the narrative at the end than anything else?
Yeah, I mean, it went even further than that. I guess he has a couple inside sources from the whole Ron tenure, and a lot of key events went back. It was real bad, Christian. 2024 has been something. I mean, like the whole. I'm not sure. Like you guys are quite sure. Get the stuff over here, like the Cat Williams interview. I'm quite sure that probably came across you guys. That's how that report was. That's immediately what I thought about reading some excerpts from that. It was really bad. But Chris. So what were some of the worst moments in Ron's tenure to you? And we're gonna bring up DT is gonna join us. He's also co-host, co-producer. Redzone In the Lab programs here, so just come in, popping in, chopping it up with us. Go ahead, Christian.
NET.
Yeah, I think ultimately, Ron as a coach, it's been a failure, hasn't it? And what seems to have come out the last sort of week or so, there was too much on his plate to deal with. He wasn't really well qualified for that. It was almost like he was head of football operations, and I just don't think that's something he's particularly good at. Too many distractions, the name changes, the scandals which were prior to his time. And like Scott said about his personal battles, I suppose one of the failures as well, which, again, this doesn't really have anything to do with Dan Snyder or anyone else, is failure in the draft. Good show. You look at his drafts from 20 to 2023. I think most of those drafts, you'd probably want to go back and redo it.
Definitely. Kyle Hamilton, what are you doing? Christian Gonzalez? Yes, please.
Yeah, and none of us. Yeah, none of us on here are general managers, but the whole vibe, apart from maybe Chase Young, because perhaps it seemed like the safe pick. I'm not sure they've done the best due diligence on that, but it was a safe pick. I can understand it. Every other draft seemed to be a reach, or we seem to be prepared to get value rather than those kind of stud guys. There was a lot of talk where we got a big haul for, was it instead of getting Chris Olave? I'd still rather have Chris Olave than Hal Robinson Jr., etc. Maybe that's just me, but so it'd be interesting going forward to see how they view that, that value approach to the draft compared to just, getting that guy.
Scott, I was trying to. I think Saturday we're going to look at some of that report from Ben Standig showing and kind of talk about it. But
you'll have to send me it.
Yeah.
I can't get access, man. I'm banned. So
How did you upset Ben
Standig?
But Andy, are you banned from the whole Athletic, or you just blocked by Ben Standig?
Just get a subscription on your cheapskate.
How much is it?
I got it for $1 for a year last summer.
Yeah, you can get it for $1. You can get it, but normally it's about £7 or £8 a month, so it's not exactly.
But yeah, that's £8 a month more than it should be worth. To be fair,
Then gonna say to be fair. Like, how is that to be fair?
I think Scouts Andy would be looking for value in the draft, wouldn't he?
I'm the penny guy.
You're just a contrarian.
unless it's an O lineman, he's not interested. Yeah, exactly.
Man. I mean,
that's the truth.
Speaking of O lineman, one of the biggest mistakes that Ron did make
don't
was
say
getting
it. Don't
Morgan
say
Moses.
Oh man, I bet you
Caught Morgan Moses that pissed off Sheriff. Sheriff didn't want to be here after that. We lost Trent Williams at the same time. It was just a waste. It's just basically ruined the top 6 offensive line in literally one move. That's basically what he did by Moses. It's ridiculous.
One thing I put in the blog, which is maybe a bit of a reach, really, but the Trent Williams thing, I guess it was a relationship that had soured, but I wonder if a kind of Sean McVay or that kind of, young, energetic coach, whether he would have just come in and said, Trent Williams, you're the best left tackle in the NFL.
Which he
don't need
is.
because Ron's approach was you've got to prove yourself. I mean,
yeah, I don't think Ron was screwed. I thought Ron was screwed with that one because Dan Snyder didn't want to pay him.
I read in a few places that that relationship with Trent Williams was pretty much irretrievable by the end.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't think that's all Ron's fault either.
On his head, didn't it? It started from that, didn't it? And the
medical treatment.
Yeah. That's fair enough. Yeah.
And Dan put us through the ringer. Trent put us through the ringer in the media, and Dan hated that, so he said, "No, I'm not paying you." So fuck off, basically, and that's basically what he did.
He had a small ban as well, didn't he, Trent Williams, for smoking the old weed?
Yeah,
the old weed.
Nowadays, it's illegal, isn't it? In most countries.
He wouldn't get that now.
Well, not then. It wasn't. Not then.
No, not then.
Yeah, more so. That's why the whole Trent Williams thing I ain't really put too much around. I don't think he was going to play here if Ron would have called him. Best left tackle. I mean, the last 2 years, I think he only played 14 games. At one point, he couldn't put a helmet on, right? Yeah. So that was another thing, right? But as soon as he get to San Fran, he put a helmet on, right? But I just don't think he wanted to be here, and I think somebody real Benjamin saying Washington conducting some dirty business. People don't like the way Josh Harris moving. We're gonna talk about that a little later. But with the Trent Williams thing, it was more so like, I'm sorry, we're sorry. Where do you want to go? And let's work something out. That's why I'm not so upset with the compensation he got. I don't think there was, he was wanting to look out for the guy. I mean, we misdiagnosed without the whole Castle thing and everything. So, hey, look, I'm not going to send you to some sorry team to get a whole rack of picks. So, Ron starting off his tenure, I think that was good for him, especially when it came down to the players. The fans might be upset. They wasn't upset then because I saw JP's tweet. Somebody brought up from 2020. All the fans look highly excited that Ron came in and made that decision. But outside of that, we could come right back to you, Scouts. And this has been a hard one all week. What are some things, some positive things that Ron did that the mascot can look back on and say, you know what, we can build off of this?
Well, the mascot can't say anything, can he? So, but yeah, I mean, positive things. I think Scott mentioned a couple of them before about kind of that he did. He managed. I think I mentioned it on our pod on Sunday about Ron's remit. I don't think his remit was to actually win. I think his remit was to stabilize the ship and make us in the best position possible for the new transition with the new owner and then a new head coach, which is now. So if you put it into that context, he did a good job. I think he did a good job, mostly kind of fighting fires, mostly for Dan Snyder, because that's all he was doing for most of his tenure.
Yeah,
and that's when he mentioned before about he was manager for 3.5 years and then only coaching for the last 5 or 6 weeks because he didn't have the time allotted because he was dealing with media crap and legal crap from Dan Snyder, and he's trying to fight the fire. And I think he did as best a job as a head coach could have done. If that makes sense. Like if we brought in a very inexperienced guy, say we brought in Ben Johnson into that first year head coach, he would have fell apart and he probably would have ruined him. Do you know what I mean? So I think Ron was the right guy at the right time. He did a lot of good things, as in from that side of it. But obviously on the field, obviously not very good. He made some dumb, stupid decisions, especially his drafting. And there's other things that you can mention about kind of the free agency signings, etc., etc. Most of them have ended up being busts. Let's face it. He's not.
Are we all forgetting that he couldn't remember that we could get eliminated from the playoffs?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So there was obviously mental kind of lapses there, and I think he was just too busy being occupied by all the other crap, even though he should be head coach, but he wasn't.
I agree with you. He's the ultimate delegator, Scouse, and that's what it is. He delegates absolutely everything to his OC and his DC in the hope that
he
they're going to do the
job. He needed to because he was too busy dealing with the shit.
But when you look at the names that you've got there in EB, and you've got he's got a good friend in Jack, then they're both got head coaching experiences, or EB's supposedly call plays in Kansas City. But even so, they're coming in as big names, and you've got to lean on them to do their jobs properly. And Ron is a player's coach. I'll go back to one of the better things was you look at the way that the players react to him when they went for the Pro Bowl. The likes of Jeremy Reeves, the likes of, and then we're not always thinking about the other shit that's gone on off the field as well. We've had, Montez Sweat's had personal tragedy. We had,
Jamie Davis,
Everett stuff, Jamie Davis getting in trouble again, and he's got to deal with all this from the players' personnel perspective as well. I mean, Pre-Rob getting shot. There's a lot that's gone on over the time that he's been here in his tenure.
And not many head coaches could have handled that, being honest. That went on.
And they weren't queuing around the block to come and coach here like they are now.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
I mean, Joe Gibbs had to basically beg him to actually to actually want to get the job. He begged Ron to actually take the job. That's how desperate we were at that point because nobody wanted to be here.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean that I think he was hired by now. That whole situation and him coming here, I don't think no young coach would have been able to deal with that. I mean, the stuff that he knew about coming in, they wouldn't have been able to deal with. And just imagine everything else that came after that. I mean, man, it was something. But at the end of the day, Tony, when Ron talked about, I was only able to coach for 6 games, and I kind of just thought about it when Scouts brought it back up. You ain't have to worry about the management part of our season, to be honest. I mean, you could have coached, because you ain't have to worry about that no more because new ownership, and you ain't have to worry about any of that anymore. It's just about you being a head coach. And that's your fault if you only decided to do it the last 6 games. And you still was 0-6 anyhow. So, Ron, the coach, I mean, it was...
Yeah, it was bad. As the coach, it was bad, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean... Tony, do you think, what could have Ron have done different in his tenure here?
Well, it's difficult to know because I think, as we've just said there, he had so much stuff on his plate. I mean, I was just going to touch back on your first question about what he did well. And I think one of the things he did well was shielding the players from a lot of what was going on. I mean, the players never really had to bear too much of the brunt of all the scandals and the off the field stuff. Ron was taking all that in terms of the public face of the organisation. The players obviously were going to be well aware of all that, but that he was taking the public face of all that. What he could have done differently. I mean, so many different things. I think he, as we've said already, he could have drafted differently. I don't think on the field. If we're talking on the field, I don't think we ever really developed a true identity as a team over the 4 years. I think we went from, I like the odd stat here and there, and I was looking today, and we went from there was a stat that is kept by Mike Sando in The Athletic about the first 28 minutes of a game. So it discounts the last 2 minutes of the half, and then the second half because of game script stuff. But the first 28 minutes. In 2022, we were at 41.2% passing, which was the 32nd, so we were last in the league. And we've gone from that to this year, 63.6% passing, first in the league. Now, since that data has been kept, that is the biggest change in one single season. Now, obviously, EB came in as the offensive coordinator and things were different, but I think that just illustrates how we never really established any kind of an identity. So I think he could perhaps have done a better job with that. Obviously, Scott Turner was a different type of offensive coordinator. defensively, I mean, we never had any consistency. We went, it was the ultimate yo-yo ride. We went from being a terrible defense to a top 10 defense to a terrible defense. I don't understand. I mean, I know that defensive variability is greater than offensive variability year to year. You need to look at any of the stats will tell you that. But I don't understand how we could have been quite as inconsistent as the coach. And obviously, you can blame Del Rio. I just think that Ron was never able to fully focus on the playing side because he was focusing on everything else. And whether that was ever possible for him to do, I don't know. But he may look back on it and think, well, I only wish I could have perhaps devoted more of myself to the actual, team on the field.
Yeah, and that's the thing because he came in and said I won it all, and then when he's leaving out, he looked back and say maybe I shouldn't have had it all. It's all hindsight. But DT, like under our brand, we welcome all people that are good humans, right? Regardless of where you come from. Although we know if you're a good human, you're welcome to the show. Take this walk with me, because first, and I see Scott looking through the comments. So take this walk with me with the real Benjamin, because first I was like, what is he talking about? But take this walk with me real quick. And Christian, DT, I'm coming to you, and then go to Christian. Washington conducting some dirty business. All right, that's the first one. Washington conducting some high level billionaire dirty business. That's the second one. And James, I do appreciate you commenting. It's the first time you joining the show. Please come back, subscribe. We'd love to have you keep in the comments. Here's the third one. EV tanked the season for a top 5 pick. That's why he's not fired yet. Adam Peters traded for Chase. Ian Cunningham traded for Montez. One will be player operations and one will be GM.
Well, I don't think they're both coming.
And that's something we want to talk about too. Adam Peters will get us Ben Johnson. Ian Cunningham will get us Caleb or Fields or MJH. They think that they are smart, and that's it. Like it's funny when you kind of make those connections, but I don't think is really anything with that. But let's get into this, and we can start with DT. And Tony already said what he had to say, but I think when it comes out that both of them has told everyone no, like we're not interested in no other job. That leads me to believe that, like, I'm thinking in my mind, DT, why would they say that if they don't know something or already have some type of job lined up? That's why I'm thinking, is this some type of 2-part hiring?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I just want to say I definitely forgot that Peters and Cunningham were both in the same front offices when those trades went down. So it didn't even pop in my head. But to answer your question, I think for the first time in a decade that we have all watched this team, we're starting to see the trains that, and the words that we always wanted to hear. A place that you want to go and be successful at. And Washington is looking like it's going to be a place that's going to be successful. Is because now there's no dark cloud hanging over those people. They got competent people trying to run this organization the right way. And people, even though we heard over the years people talk about the talent over here, but they hesitated because they know who was really in charge and who was meddling with some of the things that have made this team not be the team that everybody wanted to be, from 2012, 2019, and go on and forth, and many other moves that's happened. But I'm truly happy to see that for the first time that I can finally watch my team, and it's looking like they can get top candidates because they realize this is one of the best franchises, and people want to build this franchise back up.
I mean, Christian, do you think it's an opportunity, a chance that we can get both of them? And I'm thinking the only way that works is Adam Peters, president, and Ian Cunningham promoted to GM because he's assistant GM right now with the Bears. Adam Peterson wouldn't take I don't think he would take the GM job because they offered him a GM job in San Fran, and they created the president of football operations job for John Lynch. So I don't think so. That's how I think. But I mean, what do you think, Christian? We're gonna go around. So Scott saying no, so we're gonna go no, yes, no, yes, no, yes. So let's go Christian, and then we'll go Tony and Scott and Scouts.
I guess anything's possible, isn't it? You know, I mean, I think one thing with the NFL as well, which obviously Josh Harris and these guys get, is that you can't stand still, can you? You know, everyone's planning already for next season. Maybe the teams currently in the playoffs or not, but for the teams who the season is over, you've got to act kind of quickly, you know, to get your guys. I'm pretty certain that there's been some conversations before some of these interviews were conducted. I won't go as far as the conspiracy we saw with some of the comments in terms of that trail of thought. But yeah, anything's possible. I mean, so far my impression of Josh is perhaps not super comfortable in front of the cameras, but he's a very good second listen. You know, he's a good second listen. So during the live stream, you kind of, you know, it's kind of going over you a little bit. But when you hear his actual words and, you know, he's thorough but quick, all this kind of stuff makes sense. I really like the hires so far. I mean, this is a guy who even hired a stadium consultant. I can't imagine Dan Snyder hiring a stadium consultant. And that's just for FedEx as well, you know, for improving that experience for the likes of you guys who go along there. So far, I'm very impressed with Josh Harris. I don't mind this. Is it Bob Myers, who's more of an NBA guy? Nothing wrong with that.
Bob Myers, yeah, and Rick Spielman was the other one. But there's links there, and that's what you've got to think about. Is Rick Spielman's linked very heavily to Adam Peters, obviously Bob Myers as well. I think Rick Spielman went to school with Adam Peters. I think even through grade school.
That was Myers.
It was Myers. Sorry, my apologies. Yeah, it's the other way around. So you know, looking at the hiring situation here and saying, well, what Adam Peters is, you know, almost declared as the number one, and Ian Cunningham's there as well. Look, at the end of the day, these two guys were the top candidates out there that people were after everywhere you look. Now, for me, as you said, DT, and I totally agree with your point, I want to see winning culture off the field as well as on the field. And if you can build this franchise to the way it should be built, and Josh Harris knows that as a fan, Mitchell Reyes knows that as a fan, bringing their money into this and bringing them to somewhere like, oh, you can come to my house in Miami and have your interview there. Of course, these guys are going to turn that down. But do we get both? I don't think we do get both, because I think they're two good candidates who are good enough to be GMs in their own show. But it's where you go in your own show. I mean, we can have a look at the coaching positions that are open, and a lot of them you'd think and say, oh, yeah, there's that one there and there's that one there. I don't know where someone goes to, where one of these candidates goes to if they're not going to be a GM here.
Also, here's a good link. Here's a good link.
Go on, then, Tony. Go on.
You know Rick Spielman's brother, Chris Spielman.
Chris
Spielman, ex Detroit Lions linebacker, and now chief advisor to the chief exec of the Lions. Who's the Lions offensive coordinator?
Okay, yeah, I got you. Ben Johnson. Yeah, I see where you're going there. I see where you're going. Yeah. Well, he's now. What were you saying, Scouts? Before he's 2-1 on to be he's the favorite, the absolute bookie's favorite. Yeah,
Ben Johnson's the 2-1 favorite.
Did you see those clips when he was with some of the younger quarterbacks as well, and his whole kind of demeanor and persona? He seemed quite a dude, did Johnson? He was with Howe, I think Malik Willis as well. Yeah.
Then you've got the UNC link there as well with Howe and possibly Drake May. So, you know, where do we go? We've got no idea. Chicago's running this draft, whether we want to accept that or not. And they can do whatever they want to do. If you're really that desperate to get Caleb Williams and you need to trade up to one, okay, I understand it. But really, I don't particularly want to do that either. I'd rather stay pat at 2, if I'm being honest.
But I think right now, Caleb is kind of running the draft right now, right? Because he's still hasn't declared. So true. I think that's going to matter. I don't think he's going back. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's threatening and did all that other stuff. His dad talked to the media or whatever, but I just don't see him going back. But if he does, that's just going to mess up. That's just going to shake up a whole lot. But once he declares, because I think Marvin declared today, so I think Caleb is going to be soon behind. So I think it's going to be, and then Chicago is like these different reports. Are they going to keep Justin? Are they not? Like, what's going to happen? It's different as well. So this is going to be a ride and dance for sure for the next few months. But Breeze, welcome. Also co-host OTH podcast.
Hey, Breeze.
We in the UK. When we over here think of UK, we think of Paris, we think of clothes, we think of brand. We think of what they call it, the roadway when they bring out the new line of clothes and all that. So is very keen for Breeze to be on here because he's the
game day drip specialist.
Yeah, game day drip specialist.
I love it. You're a drip guy. I like that.
So it's kind of funny because like the game day drip hashtag game day drip was going to be a segment of ours this season, and we get to the stadium, they do it on the video board, the same hashtag we was gonna have and everything. So they probably be listening for sure. But Scouts, I mean, like where we at now is different. I mean, like we've never. I mean, how do you feel as a fan? Like, how do you all feel as a fan right now? And I know this season was horrible. I think the season is worse than what it was because of the sale of the team. EB coming in here, he bringing that championship pedigree. So I think everyone was really, really high, and we didn't think the defense was going to be awful. So the fall was longer than what we expected it to be. But I mean, we here now. So I mean, how do you feel about this team? Like, have you felt this way? And,
I mean, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. I mean, the two guys that I wanted possibly for GM are the two guys who were the favorites. So it shows that these guys know what they're doing because they're following my leads. You know what I mean? But in general, I think I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to see who we actually hire. And I've always said the most important thing Harris has to do is to get the correct GM involved and let the guy work, and that's it. Stay out the way, and hopefully that'll be pretty soon. And then everything else is going to drip down quite nicely. People do it the right way. Good organization will always select better in the drafts because you do better kind of, I think, knowledge and kind of looking at these guys. I think they're better scouting, and also, yeah, I'm all in, man. I can't wait to see what we do.
Scott, are you excited?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for the first time in my young fandom, I mean, Tony, he could tell you the analogs of the whole of the NFL for the last 30 years. He's unbelievable. He is what I call stato or a guru. If you ever want to know a stat, I mean, we quizzed him afterwards on our podcast, and it was.
I see him over there with the notepad or whatever. You can't hide it, Tony. You got to
be ready, boys. You got to be ready for this stuff.
He is a stato. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I think Josh Harris is doing the right thing. And what I see, it's not just Josh Harris. What I see from this group, and we call them the Hog Group because it's the Harris ownership group, is you've got the right people here. Magic Johnson is a big draw. I know, Scouse, you've got an issue with basketball people, but he is a big draw coming into this team. If you're a young man coming out of college and you're thinking to yourself, well, I might get drafted here by Washington, Earvin Magic Johnson gives you a bit of, whoa, what the hell is happening here? I'm going to meet Magic Johnson. Or you might like Kevin Durant, you might, or someone like that. He can organize that. He can bring that guy in and say, hey, you want to meet Kevin Durant? I can get you to meet Kevin Durant if that's who it is that you want to speak to. He's also surrounding himself with winners. I mean, I'm no issue at all with having Bob Myers involved in the team initially trying to search for the next GM because that guy's a born winner. And if you surround yourself by winners and you try and look to do the right thing, it's going to rub off on us and it's going to rub off on the right way. So for the first time in in what 15 years, this is the time where I'm the most excited about being a fan of this team and of this franchise, because right now the only way is up. We've got 26 people who are going to leave this team. 90 million is not going to go very far. Let's be honest.
No,
it ain't gonna go very far.
That's worth pointing out.
You have to think you've got a whole new roster turnout. You've got a whole new head coach coming in, a brand new GM, a revamped FedEx Field again, and then stability, and that's key. Stability is the key. No more Dan Snyder. That's the biggest thing. I don't care as long as Dan Snyder's gone, I'm quite comfortable and happy. But the only way is up from here. That is the only way we can go, and especially if you're picking at 2. Because if you're picking at 2, you're never going to get this opportunity again. So you can solve the quarterback puzzle this time round. I really believe that too.
Tony, we about to talk about free agency. Like he's about wanted to say something. Yep.
I'm not sure.
Out space.
I was gonna.
Oh yeah, because you did that, and I was like, oh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just talking about cap space. It was just the fact that everybody's talking about the fact we have $90 million, and it's number 1, I think, in the league. But at the same time, we only have 26 players under contract. So you're basically talking about having 50%. You've got to build 50% of a roster with less than 50% of the cap. Now, obviously, there's 2 or 3 big contracts in there. You've got Terry's contract, you've got the Payne contract, and you've got the Allen contract. But yeah. Don't get me wrong. 90 million is great to have, but it's probably not the golden egg that everybody possibly thinks it might be.
Yeah, and then I mean, we only thinking about 53, but we got to get to 90.
Yeah.
So I mean, those smaller minimum deals begin to add up.
I think they'll be hiring us off the couch for like $100.
well, yeah.
I'm not playing for that, man.
And then we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 picks? 6 picks in the top 1 or 2?
Oh, in the top 1 or 2.
Yeah.
5 or 6 picks.
Yeah. So I mean, we got to account for that. And
that's why I said earlier, Deuce, that I don't want to trade out at 2 because you're giving up the capital there where you can fill holes that need to be filled on here. We haven't had a sack in 4 games. I
don't think we got
no edge.
Tony, do we get a pressure since we traded Sweat?
Not many. Not many. I mean, I think the ends and the pass rush obviously you've got to be addressed. Whether you can do that through free agency. I mean, there's a couple of guys. I don't know whether. Yeah, but I don't know whether they'll let Burns go or not. They may do. They may not. But with those 5 picks in the top 100, you've probably got to be looking at the quarterback at the top, and then prioritize the offensive line and the pass rush.
So Christian EB, he hasn't gotten a request yet. We haven't. They had nothing come out that we. I think Josh did say he's going to get. I think I was looking at one of the quotes he had, and they was asking about EB, and he said, he's going to be part of the process. I guess they're going to talk to him or get an opportunity. But he kind of looped them in the coaching search, but nothing official has come out yet. Christian, EB betted on himself. Did he win or lose?
I think the record speaks for itself, so you're going to have to say that he lost. There were times where I kind of got what he was doing, I mean, we started 2-0, didn't we? Which seems a long time ago, to be fair. I mean, it was so pass heavy. And, we spoke earlier about Ron Rivera, the players. There wasn't too much kind of like locker room leaks, were there? Despite us not doing very well.
Yep, at least the first 3.5 years, there
was a kind of togetherness. And actually, there was numerous players who seemed to be critical of EB. You heard Cosme, didn't you? You heard Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
Now, it was very easy at the start when we were doing okay to say, those guys just needed to kick up the arse. We've been terrible. EB comes in, kicks them up the arse. And I don't think that's the modern NFL. And that might explain to a certain extent why EB was passed over for some, because he was seen as more of a head coach, wasn't he? It was always like, why is EB? I suppose the flip side of that is that there's been some talk that Kansas hasn't been quite as good, and maybe they're missing Bieniemy. I don't know. I think overall, I think I would. If it was Ben Johnson, for example, offensive young coach, can you really see Bieniemy being here next season? I don't think so. I don't think so.
And I think his system just didn't work. Sorry, Scouse, you go ahead, mate.
Wait, you got to be able to manage 53 millionaires. It's quite difficult, you can't always give it the hard stick, you know what I mean? Like, which is what EB does. You've got to be able, you've got to be a great man manager as such. You've got to say the right thing to the right guy. Some people can take the hard coaches. Some people, you need the arm around the shoulder, boost the confidence up that way, tell them you're the greatest of all time, stuff like that. Some people need to hear that from their coach to play at their best. And EB doesn't do that. He's just constantly on you all the time. So that's the reason why I think Sam Howell is one of those guys. I think he is a guy you need to put his arm around him, whisper sweet nothings in his ear. That's what you've got to do to get his confidence back. Because I think his confidence is gone. And that's why his play has been so poor for the past 5-6 weeks. But again, he doesn't change. It's like, this is my way or the highway. But the difference is, nowadays, teams will just fire the coach before they get rid of the players. That's the problem you've got.
And I remember Logan Thomas said that he's the same guy every day to everyone. But I didn't see that as I didn't see that. I didn't see that as a positive. It's consistent. I understand the consistency, but like you say, horses for courses.
Well, Logan Thomas's comment was exactly as you said, Christian. But he said, I think he followed it up with, he said he's the same guy every day. I'll just leave it at that.
Ooh, okay. I mean, what you've got to remember as well is we're drafting these guys from programs that have better facilities, they're better, and they come from winning backgrounds, and they come from winning culture and winning teams. Your Alabamas, your Ohio States, your Michigans of the world. They're coming from big college programs into the NFL expecting success. And that's not something that you're going to get immediately. But also at the same time, you have to think to yourself here, well, okay, EB's play calling let him down too. The system with EB there was not a West Coast system that we were expecting, and it wasn't an Air Coryell system that we were expecting either. It was a mishmash of both with a few trick plays thrown in, and half of it was probably Sam Howell's fault, half of it was EB's fault. He didn't call specific plays to get EB open. And in his initial press conference, EB sat there and said, I'm the guy who'll put people in the positions to win. And for me, he didn't do that. So he bet on himself, and unfortunately, the house won this time. So I like Eric Bieniemy as a person, but anyone who speaks in the third person about themselves, they can get out for me. I'm not interested. Yeah,
I think whatever happened.
Sorry.
Go on, Christian.
I was just wondering if he would be just welcomed back into that into the role he had at Kansas City.
Yeah,
whether he could make that kind of sideways move.
I don't know, man. It's been rumors about Andy, and if they win it all, he might hang it up. I don't know, man. Like, they just need to play better. If they win the Super Bowl, then all that stuff in the regular season don't even matter, right?
Yeah.
Like, and none of that's going to matter. So I don't know. This whole EB thing is I can't, and I'm gonna be honest. Like, everything that's going on around the league, and you talk about the diversity hires, and you talk about giving a chance for those hires. I mean, you have a guy that's the defensive coordinator that's probably going to get some head coaching interviews that's literally suing the NFL. Like, right now, today, it's still going on suing the NFL, and is a black candidate. And then you got these other black coaches that's been hired. You got these GMs that's been hired. Like, that card can't be played. It has to. Like, I don't. And this didn't help him at all. Like, all those pass attempts, and I mean, you gave what's called the first 28, Tony.
Yeah, first 28 minutes.
That's especially for a young quarterback. Like, would a GM trust you to come in and to handle a young quarterback, knowing the offense and the situation you put Howell in? I mean, the one trump card he has is, did you see this team, or did you see what this team was going through? Like, he's going to have to find a way, but I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job this cycle. I think if you can find a team that's going to hire a defensive head coach, maybe he'll get an opportunity as an OC with more stability. 2-3 year stability, and maybe he'll get that opportunity. But I don't know.
I think what summed Derek Bieniemy up for me was, why does it take you to the last 15 seconds of the season to get Terry McLaurin 1,000 yards?
Let's talk about it.
Dude.
Let's talk about it.
Go ahead,
Well, I
Breeze.
think it's not just McLaren. I think that when he came in, we talked about all the weapons that we have. Josh Dotson had a fantastic, a very good rookie season, and disappeared off the face of the earth this year. Now,
he's another one. I think confidence has gone. You just
exactly.
I would never drop. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. No, he may have. Dotson's got something to do with that as well. But at the same time, McLaurin barely reached 1,000 yards, and these days 1,000 yards doesn't mean what it used to anyway. So those two guys,
played every game.
Yeah, and those two guys were not really a game-changing threat. Now, if you've got a first-round guy on one side and a guy who's arguably top 10, top 15 receiver on the other side, and neither of them really did anything to alter games this year.
No. Exactly right, Tony. And it's mismanagement. It's mismanagement of them. It's mismanagement and play calling. It was very vanilla. Like, why are you always out of shotgun? Why are you running the ball on 3rd and 1? Why are you
out the shotgun?
And then the total abandonment of the run game from what we're hearing now. I know you can't take media for granted, and what they say is for clickbait. I understand that completely. But when you're hearing multiple reporters saying they're not even practicing the run game in training camp, really?
No, like that. We went Breeze.
Well, you went, didn't you? Yes.
Like Breeze is here. Like, we went a lot. We went to OTAs. We went to training camp.
Yeah.
OTAs, there were no running plays. The whole OTAs, there were no running plays. The first 2 weeks of training camp, we was there about 5 or 6 times. If we wasn't there, somebody we knew was there. There were literally no running plays. I don't think it was running plays until Fan Appreciation Day. I think that's the first time we've seen running plays.
I forget the game it was where we had 55 consecutive passes.
Yeah, exactly.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
That was Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo.
Yeah,
Buffalo.
And even then we couldn't get Terry and Dotson the ball.
No, that was embarrassing.
That was the Bears.
Was it Bears?
Yeah,
The Bears? Okay, Bears.
Wasn't he actually assistant? Was he assistant head coach as well as OC?
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he got the bump up.
Yeah, with us. Yeah.
Assistant cab driver.
Assistant cab driver.
It was Del Rio before. Del Rio was the assistant head coach because obviously when Ron had his
they shared that title. Him and Del Rio shared that title.
All right. Okay. Cool.
No, I think I don't think so. I think the misperception was when Ron went out, Del Rio took over. I don't think he was. I don't think he was the head coach. I think he was just acting acting instead. Like, I don't think he ever had that title. Like, I don't think Del Rio ever had that title. Yeah, because I don't even know. I mean, I don't even who assistant head coaches is crazy to me. But
is that common man in the NFL to have an assistant head coach? I always thought it was head coach. OC,
like Weaver. If you want to draw someone, Anthony Weaver from the Ravens. He's the D-line assistant head coach. So yeah, like, especially you want to lure somebody over, you can throw that on there as a promotion.
Yes. That's what I think it was with Bieniemy.
Yeah, I will say a lot of people that have their title is really just a title. It's not really there's no additional function of the job, unless of course the head coach gets fired at some point in the middle of the season. But yeah, it's not exactly uncommon though.
But it's
all about the money, isn't it? That's all it is. It's a bump in money.
Well, but he did also give EB a lot of responsibility because EB changed the practice schedules. He changed the way that the team actually operates. So he did actually have responsibility.
Well, I think for Jack it was more of a title. For EB, he actually had like job functions of being essentially like the offensive head coach, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they did say, even Ron said that he was, like training camp schedules and all that. Like, he put him in charge of all that because he put him in charge of all those different types of things. And I think, Ron said he had full autonomy over the offense. I don't know. I mean, it probably wasn't 100%, but full autonomy, if you're not a head coach, is probably a high percentage number, but the head coach still needs to come and step in and, whatever the head coach says should should go. But that's very interesting, and I just don't. I don't know, man. Like this EB thing is very weird to me, guys. And yes, Dave, we do get the office joke, assistant to the assistant regional manager.
I got it.
So all right, let's go to the immediate future. Let's kind of look past the VP and the GM, and let's look to the all season for the last 5 or 10 minutes. We'll start with you, Breeze. What are you looking? What are the biggest needs outside of quarterback? What are the biggest needs for this team?
So offensively, and this is also like very contingent on who you bring in as head coach, OC and DC, because what they want to run. But just at face value, at least three fifths of a starting offensive line, tight end, edge rushers, linebacker. Like you can make the argument that at least half the defense needs to be rebuilt. Like there's although like I said before, the team is not completely devoid of talent. They are far from being a finished product as a roster, especially going into free agency with 26 players, or whatever the number is that are pending free agents, and the majority of them probably not coming back. Like there's a lot of places to improve. Like only place it might be easier to name the places that we might be set at, and even that's a question mark. Like
I don't think we're set anywhere, Breeze. Do
precisely. Like
we named about 5 players in one of our pods.
5. We got
everybody
5,
else would go.
maybe running back, but you can upgrade there.
Yeah,
potentially defensive tackle, but one of those players could potentially be traded.
John Allen be going, I think.
Right, punter, like you know what I mean, like.
The new long snapper's not done anything wrong, so
right guard
now as well, probably trade up again.
We might be set at right guard, but like there's room to improve across the board. Like it's
There's too many holes to fix in one off season.
Yes, definitely. Yes, but I think that needs to be a thing where don't pretend as if we can fill these holes with free agency and with these 9 picks in the draft. No, you can't. Yeah. No, you can't. Like you have to build a roster and do it the right. Don't do it the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the hit rate for the draft is what 2-3 players. Maybe I think that's a great draft if you could get 2-3 heavy contributors in the draft. So
we will have to about 4 years.
Yeah. So
the man 3 per year.
Well, let's be optimistic and say that we get 3 or 4 starters in free agency and maybe a couple of starters in the draft. That's 6 players.
Yeah, it's still short.
We need more than 6 players.
We need about 16 players.
Right.
Start.
Yeah.
To be fair.
And that's actually a good point, Tony. Like, yeah, that's benefit of doubt. 3-4 starters in the draft, 2-3, like 6-7 players. Like we're still a long way off. So you have to kind of hope that the coaching was as bad. And let's go there. And this is usually what we do. We start one, go somewhere else. So like we'll start with you, DT, before you fall out of the chair and sleep.
I was noticing that. I was always
long day at work, man.
Oh yeah,
yeah, man. I get you, bro. I get you.
And you gotta show, you gotta produce too. 30 minutes. So like, I don't think our players like John Allen and Terry and Jahan, I don't think they like from last year to this year that they just fell off the face of the earth. Like I just can't believe that they are just this bad or this or produced as less as they did from previous years. I think it's more coaching has a lot to do with it. So do you guys start with DT? Like, do you think coaching can improve what we have on the roster now? We got 26 players, I think. Do you think better coaching can improve those players a little to make them better?
Better coaching and better person around those players, I think, will help. Let's face it, Jonathan Allen and Chase Young did not have a great relationship when it came on game days because, they had an assignment and they can never fill those stunts correctly because, Chase Young decided to freelance. So that affected the defense for almost 3.5 years since we have seen it. And I think for Terry, Terry has always, he's been our number one guy. I think really the problem this year was, it was a young quarterback under center trying to gain some chemistry with him. And also the way the offense was, there were some questions about how they were spaced out and was there room to make those catches. His targets were very high. They just wasn't hitting on the deep balls and whatever. So I think coaching and just getting the right guys around these guys will be elevated. So that's all I can really say, Deuce.
Yeah, just jump in, guys.
I agree 100%.
Go on.
I was going to say fully agree that, I think that even with the greatest coaching of all time, this roster isn't ready to compete. But I still think that better coaching and good coaching is going to make them far better. Now, who knows? We are literally bringing in half a new roster, and you coach those guys up as well. I don't think it takes long to become competitive.
I agree.
I think it takes longer to be, elite, which is obviously where we want to be. I don't think it takes long to become competitive. I think the difference between 4-13, 5-12, and sort of 8-9 wins, I'm not sure that the gap is that big. And the way the playoff field is these days, with seven teams per conference, you can scrape into the playoffs on, with a 500 record near enough these days. So, I think the route to being competitive might not be that long. I think the route to becoming an elite team is certainly a year, at least probably 2 seasons away.
And I agree with you there in what you're saying, Tony, because there's 2 points there. There's being competitive, which is all we want to see on the field. It doesn't matter if we're not an elite roster or the roster has holes. You can mask that deficiency if you see 100% effort given and that they're playing for the coach and they're playing for the burgundy and gold. I'm comfortable with that. Because obviously it's the jersey, it's not the names on the back of the jersey. But at the same time, I'm pleading patience here. This is a 2 to 3 year rebuild. Now, we've heard rebuild far too many times, and fans get frustrated when they hear the word rebuild. But we have to be honest with ourselves here. We've just mentioned it there. You can probably name 5 or 6 players in total across this roster that you're going to think to yourself, they're good enough to stay here. Otherwise, we're struggling. We've got probably Cosme on the offensive line. Potentially Stromberg could be your center going forward. Nothing else on that offensive line is good enough for me. You've got 2 good receivers in Terry and Jahan, and then I'm struggling out of that. I like what I saw out of Quan Martin the last few games. Great. Is Emmanuel Forbes going to do anything? We don't know. Benjamin St. Juste has gone completely backwards. And then you don't know what's happening at the safety position because Cam's a free agent and we didn't see Defoe this year. So it's a real struggle across all the segments of it. And we can't really forget special teams either because we've got a kicker that's due a contract. Tress Way's going to have to need a contract in a couple of years. It's going to take time.
Snapper as well.
Trust might be up.
It's going to take
this
time.
year or next year.
He's next year, I think.
Well, I
want
to see how Josh is with his money. That's what I want to see. Because you can finesse the cap. Load of teams have done it for years to get these guys in, even though you only have 90 million. Well, you could actually knock things down the road if you're cash rich. If you're a cash rich owner, you've got the chance to do that. You can finesse the cap any way you want. Now, the thing is, we've had Dan Snyder who's been a stingy bastard and left us hanging for 8 years. So I want to see what these guys are going to do from the free agency side of things, because 90 mil is 90 mil, but as we know, we can finesse this for 2-3 years down the line to get the top stars in if we so needed it. Okay, but as long as you've got the money up front to be able to give massive bonuses out to these players. So I want to see what our ownership's going to be about.
Hey, early Dan used to throw the money around for wasted value.
He did.
Bruce Smith and Deion Sanders and guys like that.
Yeah, well, Fat Albert, Albert Hainsworth.
Go down the line, man. This is bad. I do think there is. Like, I agree with like preaching, not just preaching it, but practicing patience. Because I feel like, when we first hired Ron, we kind of had the same thought process, like, yo, this is going to take some time to rebuild. It's going to take time. And then they won the division that first year, albeit with a terrible record, but still won the division.
Worst thing that happened.
Right. And I feel like because of that, I feel like people got complacent. And they were like, oh, we're not as far away as we think we may be. And the building of the roster went along with, we don't need to upgrade at linebacker because we have a first round pick and Mayo's good enough, or we don't need to build here, like, you know what I mean? And it ended up again ultimately being Ron's detriment, just as much the roster build being just as much of a detriment to his tenure as his record was. You know what I mean? So I think if we're going to if you're going to do it correctly. No, don't just preach paces, actually practice it and build it correctly all the way up. And if it gets accelerated, then it gets accelerated, but the correct way and still take your time doing it.
Yeah, but even that, you seen that next year with 2021, he kind of saw, some of the immaturity from within the players that, they were getting a little bit ahead of themselves of the rebuild. Right. They feel like they have arrived, and that kind of affected the line room and certain other places.
The Heineke hive grew.
It certainly did.
Out of desperation. Yeah.
I think even the draft last year, a lot of the focus on Forbes was because he was the missing piece. He was the ball hawk, Yeah. So obviously, I think Ron and co thought we were a bit.
Burnt. He was toast.
We were more. That we were more competitive than we actually were. I was thinking, I know Tony mentioned about the 26 guys who are free agents. Would you pay Cam Curl?
I've said it before. I think it's in both his best interest and the team's best interest to let him hit the open market and see what his value actually is. I think he's a good player. I think he has potential to be great, but he has to be used the correct way. And he, like he's like the ideal position. I'm gonna stop saying it. Position flex guy. And
I said, spoiler alert, Breeze doesn't like Cam.
No, Cam can play. I think Cam's a good player. I just don't want to pay Cam Curl $17 million a year like he's Derwin James or somebody. Like,
I think Cam was solid this year, but I don't think he's a top dozen safety in the league, or I don't think he's as good as his father. I don't think he's as good as his father. I just look at it like the biggest thing with Cam is like we want to take the ball away the defense, right? The last time Cam Curl had an interception, people were fresh out of quarantine. Like half the world was still shut down. You know what I mean? Like that was the last time he had an interception. So like I think that's a big part of being a safety is generating turnovers, and that's one thing he doesn't do, but I think he can improve on that with the proper coaching and usage. Yeah. I think one thing that's vital to this rebuild, if we're going to call it that again, is getting the right quarterback. I know that sounds obvious, but I think that if you drop it, then it puts a lot of pressure on whoever gets selected. But if you pick a quarterback that comes and hits the ground relatively running, like CJ Stroud, it makes a huge difference compared to dropping Zach Wilson in there and seeing where that ended. So that's two number 2 picks there just highlighted. So now they're coming into different situations in New York and Houston. Houston had already built for a couple of years, but that speeds up the process significantly. Is if you're building a team and you drop that quarterback in who happens to, start off, he doesn't even have to set the world on fire, but if he comes in and is solid, as opposed to Zach Wilson, peeing down his leg, then, that helps a lot.
You look at you're right, Tony, and exactly what you said there. And Scouse, you brought it up on our pod before. You look at the fans out and the fan base out there. I hear screaming of Houston. Look at what Houston did. Look at what Jacksonville have done. Look at what the Lions have done. What they're not telling you is that for 2 years prior to them putting the pieces together, they've had top 5 picks. Penei Sewell is a great tackle. Laramie Tunsil was what was the trade for Laramie Tunsil from the Dolphins? Massive giving up first round picks. They trade back into the first round last year to pick up the defensive tackle. I can't remember his name now, but he was brilliant this year as well as a rookie. And that is what you need to do as an organization, and that's why I'm preaching patience. It's going to take time, but we haven't got the time to do that right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the Jags as well, and wasn't that where that Eugene Shen was from?
Yep. I think he was at the Ravens as well for a while, wasn't he? Eugene.
And then he
Chen.
went to the Dolphins, and then he went
I think
into accounting or something.
Why did you guys fire him? That's what I want to know.
Say it again.
Maybe it just moves on. Maybe it just moves on.
Why are these teams firing Eugene Chen?
I don't know. Was they get fired or he just
was he fired? I don't think he was fired, was he?
Yeah, I don't think he's fired from either one. Yeah, I think he just
no, he wasn't fired.
He just went on to try to a new project. Some people like that. Some people just want to come clean up, stabilize it, and go somewhere else and find another cable closet to fix.
That's why outside of your GM, the next best person on your entire roster or in your organization is whoever is your capologist. If you can maximize your cap in any way, shape, or form, then you'll do that. Look at organizations that have gone all in like New Orleans. They're paying for it now. The Rams are paying for it now, but they hit on Puka Nacua, which you wouldn't have thought of. But if it wasn't for him this season, they're not a good side. But it's taking time. But they've got a good head coach and stability at that organization, and that's what we need here.
They hit on 2 or 3 rookies though. Turner, the defensive tackle, probably the defensive rookie of the year. So they
and then the running back as well is class.
And Williams, he's pretty good.
Williams, he's very good.
Karen Williams was effectively a rookie, even though he wasn't. Yeah.
These guys had no first rounders. They did like 5 fifth rounders and shit like that. Yeah, it was.
But what they've done is the recipe to a successful draft is that the Rams didn't have a lot of top picks, but the good teams, and this is where getting someone like Peters comes in. The good teams are going to be picking up guys in the mid rounds that are going to come in and contribute. You look at our mid round guys. I mean, I know we've had a couple of successes, but it just annoys me with the two offensive linemen this year. Now, okay, Stromberg might become something, but every year we hear this guy's a project, that guy's a project. We want guys to come in, and it's easier said than done. I appreciate it. But we want guys to come in and contribute.
Absolutely.
And what about that Daniel fella, the left tackle?
Braden Daniels.
Braden Daniels. He got injured, but he still wasn't going to play. I think they just tucked him.
They definitely stashed.
We really want to know about him.
They stashed that. That was a stash play.
But look at Cole Turner. I mean, Cole Turner couldn't get in the final game of the season where we're playing the ninth best cornerback. He was a healthy scratch. What does that tell you about a tight end? I'm not trying to be rude here, but it's like, dude, you're
it's not rude. It's honest.
Yeah, it's honest. Yeah. This was good. This was good, guys. I mean, I expect to go this long, and I think if possible, we probably can go another 45 minutes. But we definitely appreciate you guys coming on for sure. And we definitely going to be reaching out in the off season because we was going to take some breaks, but it seems like we're going to have too much fun. It seems like it's going to be too much fun. So we want to definitely be on. So, Scott, definitely appreciate you for coming on. And Tony, nice to meet you. It's first time.
Yeah,
so I'm
thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, most definitely. Scouts and Christian, y'all already know. So, Scott, you want to give your 1 Point Safety Show podcast how we can get to it?
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to that. Me and Scouts have our own podcast, 1 Point Safety Show. These two gentlemen to my right from the UK have been on there. It dropped about half an hour before I got on here. So it's normally about 3:00 your time. We've tried to do live today for the first time, so please excuse the expletives at the beginning of the show if you're going to watch it. But yeah, you can get it in any podcast app there. I'm also on Bleeding Burgundy every Friday and every Wednesday.
Yep, and that show, 1 Point Christian, also his blog, all of you already know about it. It's in the description as it always is for our Redzone UK show. Tony, you want to leave your @ or whatever,
Yeah, I forgot. I didn't put it on the thing there. I should have put it at Tony J. Wheat. So I don't have a podcast or a blog, so I usually just annoy Christian by contributing to his, and then occasionally.
You annoy me. That's what you do all the time, bro.
Well, no, I do. But I try. The difference is I try and annoy you. I don't try and annoy Christian.
Tony, you're welcome on ours anytime you want to be on.
Let me know. Let me know, boys. I'll be there.
Most definitely. And everyone that's out there, we appreciate you for listening. This is Fan Appreciation Week. We're going every day. We had to add Saturday for some other fans that wanted to come on. So we definitely gonna be back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. We got some more fans to come on. So if you want to join, it's not too late. Send any one of us a DM on Twitter. You can comment to the show, or you can comment on the Facebook post when this is loaded to YouTube on YouTube. Sorry, and on Facebook. I check Facebook every now and then, but Facebook, I just dibble and dab, get in and get out real quick because man, Facebook is a whole different animal. Definitely appreciate you listening, you using your time. We definitely appreciate it. Your time is very valuable. Thank you for spending it with us. Remember, do it because you love it, not because it loves you. One beat, one sound, one heart, one love.